Next statistic.
Oh yeah, not from you, not when you're raising a family. A few years maybe in your yeshiva. Now we know the whole shidduch problem. They say is because the girls are too young and the boys are too old. They're saying old baba mices that they bachim have to sit and learn because they become big time like halacha. I want to sleep a little bit more.
David Amelech. How many hours is left?
Very little. It's shinasus.
Yeah. So we try to irritate him.
Yeah.
Yeah, the rough.
Switch guy. These days we have this very successful app. Says we divided every day every 4 days. Every day by him is 6 hours. You accept? Hours later, he wakes up again. I see how long. In between, he went to work. Family works. I guess he has 20 something.
Every day is 4 days.
Every day is 4 days.
Shloch tasha. There are overachievers. There are people that says meshuga.
You have to have a shabbos with every day.
There is such a thing. Listen, my father was telling me someone he heard this from a Rishon. He was a yeshiva. He asked the Rebbe. They say the Rebbe kamat shlafnish. How does he do it? He wants his taka. The Rebbe told him to bislach. Magavent zachain to bislach. Funny. Magavent zachain to bislach.
In those days when they ate a whole week, 1 loaf of bread.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Today, I eat a loaf a day. Whatever your habit.
I just like I never would even answer such a question. I guess based on the question comes the answer.
Where are you living?
Right.
Get used to that also.
Morning. Here. Morning. Why wait for the bagels? Let's get started. Oh, sure. Morning. Someone asked me about chestnuts. Help the Abish there. That I see this an advertisement. I don't know why they need 2 pages to advertise chestnuts. Chestnuts are really delicious. If someone likes it, they're hooked on it. If they don't like it, they don't like it. I don't know why you need 2 pages and to explain how special chestnuts are. Chestnuts are good. I mean, they're really good. A whole explanation about it. Anyway. Oh, right. That's what's kedai, the advertising. Oh, wir haben sich waschen. Okay, here. So this is the story with the as you say, it's kedai to advertise. It works. It worked for the peanuts. It could work for the chestnuts. Emma says you're right. You don't see people so much chestnuts. The problem with chestnuts is they still didn't figure out how you could, and I don't know why they can't figure it out, to package it that it should be crispy. When they sell them in bags and they're very watery. The only way chestnuts are good is if you buy them fresh in the store and you roast them. The thing is, it's a big malaka. How do I know? Because the kids like it. It's a crazy job. You have to puncture otherwise it explodes in the oven. So you have to take every chestnut and make an X in it with a knife. It's a big malacha. But say like, Hanukkah or something when the kids are bored, and so I'll bring home like a big bag of chestnuts. It's an activity. So they sit there and they puncture the
hole. You have to make a hole in it. Yeah.
A lot of stores have it. They have it fresh in the winter. They have them in bags. They have, Oh, as I said, the packages, I don't know, because I buy it, people don't like it. They peel it already, but they didn't figure out, I don't know why, peanuts, they figured out how to roast it and salt it, and they sell it, and it stays fresh. This one in the bag is ein aroich. If you buy this one in the bag, you understand why they need to advertise like this. But if you buy in the store, you buy the raw chestnuts, you just take them home, you have to make an X in each one of them. You put it in the oven, you roast it, and then I don't know if you see when, because you look, if you have a light in the oven, you turn it on and you look and you see when the peels start like coming off, or like they start coming off, and then it's ready. You take it out of the oven, you let it stand 2-3 minutes, and then you start peeling each one of them. The vice was chestnuts is? Amazer beivrit, chestnuts. Harmonim? לא יודע? Okay. So son, what's chestnuts in Hebrew? Huh? You don't remember? In Yerushalayim, they didn't sell chestnuts in the shuk. They probably do have. It is native for the Middle East, Bichlal. It's not it is a... Anyway.
I mean, it's funny, I think of it as a holiday thing.
The goyim, I don't know why. What's the connection? I have no idea.
I think the class, I don't know.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
But ותיטול ידם, כן, זה הבייגל, זה מאוד טרי. Okay, let's get started. So someone asked me about chestnuts. First of all, about Bishul Yisrael, and the other thing a person asked was about what's the bracha. If you go Manhattan, Ada Yom, it used to be even more, they have a lot of push carts, and you have goyim that have like a little fire, and on top of the fire, they'll have typically like a silver foil or something, and then they have a whole bunch of chestnuts, and they sell like a little, like in this paper, like a little, you could buy 10 chestnuts at a time for $2-3. So number one is a shaila of Bishul Yisrael, and number two, what's the bracha? Like I said, it's not like
wait. Is the thing that you could buy from them in the street?
Yeah, well, you never seen them in the
I've seen them. I think you could buy them.
Someone asked me. So I helped the Avish. It was funny. After the person asked me, I said I'm going to talk about it this week. I look Shabbos. I look through this magazine. I see the advertising chestnuts. Wow. Oh, so this is my two questions. So when you have Chazal made a takonat that you shouldn't eat bishul yaakov, why the poskim say they wanted to keep eating the goyim away?
It has to be food that's kedai for a king or something.
Right, we'll talk about it in a second. They say that they say it about the Chayze, or they say it about a different Rebbe, that if he met a Rosh Yeshiva, and from the Gdol Yisrael, Medina Slita, he said, "What is it? I don't understand. That by us, you guys get together, you have some herring and potato and the liquor. So he said, so the Chayze said, Sadova Poshet. Chazal said that you're not allowed to eat bishul yaakov. Why? You get together, you have a little potato, a little herring, a little mashke. Before you know it, the boy and girl get married. The Yiddish boy gets married to the Goyish girl, Rachmana litzlan. That's what happens when you have a little l'chaim together and you eat a little food together. Nekemon is gehet that there should be also to go to a guy's house and to say bechazna psat va'toira or shiva zal zogen apilku. So Shemami know that it's more, if you want to get Yidden together, ba'achdus Yisrael, it's better to have together a little bit, a few bagels, a little bit cooked potatoes, gafka l'chaim. Because Chazal is like Shema, they'll get close and when two Yidden will get together, it's not a Shema, it's a body that they'll get very close together. It'll be very good. But that's Vishul Yisrael. Huh? They did. The truth is, they made a takona. People don't realize you're not allowed to drink liquor in the place where the goyim sell it, like in a bar which is dedicated. That was also for the same reason. They'll get there, they'll sit together. All this takona, it's pasakum and bishulakum. Yain Nesach is a different takona. That's a different. That's avodah zora. It's mostly to do with avodah zora. Could be stam yainam, but really it's a different thing. Stam yainam because yain nesach, it's avodah zora. It's a serious thing. But bishulakum, pasakum is that's what most poskim think. Okay, so there's two. They said that's only if number one, it's two conditions. It has to be that that you can't have it raw. Water, you can drink regular water. So if the goy cooks up a pot of water and you want to now drink a tea or coffee from the goy, and the other thing is, it has to be that it's oil al shulchan malachim, it goes onto a king's table. A lot of people make this mistake. They think oil al shulchan malachim, you have to find out what's going on in the White House or what's going on in the Buckingham Palace. I mean, the Taz says that
ice cream, serve ice cream and all.
yeah, back in the days in George Washington. But
Biden still eats, right? Ice cream.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
So, but the other thing is that the Taz says this other mazamen is chaveda yolov. You don't have to find out. You don't have to go. What's going on in the Buckingham Palace? To find out what's being cooked in the White House. The shaila is, what would you serve at a sheva brachas? What would you serve at a chasna? Would you put bowls with potato chips at a chasna? Nicht. It is nicht oil al shulchan malachim. Now, potato chips is a bad example. It's a very, very bad example. Why? Because people cite because potatoes you can't eat raw. Now, so people bring that there's an Aruch HaShulchan that says that in our days, he says only the simpleton eats potatoes. Who eats potatoes? The Choshevet people don't like to eat potatoes. If anything, they put it in a psameichel, the shmugelt a line in a stew.
With steak, we serve with.
Things change over time. Things are different attitudes. People have different attitudes. He says originally when they brought it maybe 100 years ago, Me'ever Layam from America to Europe, so potatoes is a meichel of a choshev. But today, it's a choshev. A person says zerei Allah. He says, "Well, what are you giving me? Potatoes?" So some people cite that Mishnah, that Aruch HaShulchan to say that you see that in every food, it's not only the item; it's how it's prepared. So it depends. Potatoes are oil shulchan malachim. Potato chips are not. It's a stretch to say that that's what Aruch HaShulchan meant. That's not what he meant. He meant in his time, no kosher person really at a chassan you would never give a steak and mashed potatoes.
In his time, they didn't have potatoes.
In the Vardok, if they gave steak at a chasana, which probably didn't happen that common, but if they gave steak at a chasana, it didn't come together with mashed potatoes. It didn't. Maybe they smuggled it into a stew when they had, in a goulash they would put in a goulash. That's right, but they didn't have mashed to say. Today, okay, anyway, I just want to tell you the poil, a lot of people are makel because of this. Many of us are makel about this, and I'm just saying that this is not a slam dunk kula. On the other hand, we're already talking about this, we'll get to the chestnuts in a second. It was oila badaiti. The other day we spoke about corn, and we confirmed that corn is eaten today raw, that it's a common thing to eat corn raw. So takazoi, corn chips is different because besides the fact that no one will let a chasna or sheva brachas put down a bowl with corn chips, but there's another kula that corn is nechel kamoshu chai today. Today, mamish recently, in the last maybe 20 years, it became the common attitude that it's nechel kamoshu chai, that people make corn salads. And not only corn salads that were cooked, that's coming from a can, which are kovish kamavushul, but they'll take a corn and they'll shave the sides, and they'll serve it as a chosh of a salad itself, or they'll add it to a salad. We spoke about this.
My parents are from Israel. It was marveled that in America, corn is part of the meal. In Israel, it was dessert. Sweet corn is part of dessert.
Yeah, they make it like a pudding out of it. You mean?
Yeah.
So I think taka. There's more of a kula lagabi corn chips because corn today is nachal kamashach. Let's get to chestnuts. The question was, what's the din by chestnuts? So let's read it inside. Oh, yeah, sure. Gesundheit.
Wait, the prices would be beat in the stands in Manhattan?
Yeah, that's my question. If you're allowed to buy it.
The Pakistani makes hot dogs in the same.
So that's another question. The emes. One of the reasons that I brought in the poskim why they were goyzer for bishalakim because you never know what kind of ingredients you could throw in. Well, most poskim say no, it's because of chestnuts. Okay, we'll talk about everything. Okay, let's read in the Shulchan Aruch Hamachaber and Yeridei Siman Kuf Yud Gimel Sif Aleph. Davar she'en necho k'may shuchai v'gam b'ilot Shulchan Malachim lafas b'is hapas Elov haperes shebishlo yoivdei kechavim. Something that two things. It's not nechol chai. It's not like water. You can have it raw or cooked either way. V'gam b'ilot Shulchan Malachim. He adds it's something which it comes usually at a table together with bread as a choshev, a meal, not just as a snack.
Wow.
Okay, Shiloh the taka has to be that way. So then, I feel a bekli Yisrael of the guy cooks it in a Jewish house in a Jewish dish. But base Yisrael also mishum bishul kechavim. It's also because the guy cooked it in the shachrites. Also be teres chatos. Reish klal lamed heish. Noigim bekihete bekila kedisha karaka liknes agroizim shleimin stechel nussen. Shemavashlem agoyim at kol shoyne. The Teres Chatas is that Ramah was more the Asra in the city of Krakow. Ramah's father was a rich developer. He developed the Jewish neighborhood that Adayom is a trendy part of Krakow. His father developed that area. It's funny, and he supported his son. But the Ramah was the Ramah. But Lepoil, the Ramah was the Rav in Krakow.
How long before the Holocaust was this?
This is about 400 more. 400.
It still exists.
Yeah. His shul is still there, and this cave is still there, and that's a very kosher cemetery. Mamash Kedei Leilam. Moshe Israel's. His father was Israel's, and his father supported him. That's why they called him the Moshe Israel's. Because his father had that schus that he supported his learning Torah. So he says over here in Krakow they have goyim push carts and they have these things called stechelnussen. Now, it's going to be very hard to figure out what stechelnussen is. I have a feeling it's chestnuts, but there's no way for me to figure it out to say. I saw in a brachas chart from Hamasifta from Torah Vadas they say stesselnussen. Stesselnussen is chestnuts. Who says arvach boy? I'm not sure that the Torah Vadas chart was so correct anyway. But anyway, whatever. I mean, look it did not negate if you know what shtechel nusen are. The fact is
something that's popular by the government by the holiday season, and it makes sense.
Right. The bottom line is that there is such a thing called goizim shleimim, the mavashlim, and the noig hetem. And why? Because metam they know shulchan malachim, because it's not these nuts never end up coming on the table. Sheva brachas. The truth is, even today, chestnuts. Maybe if they keep on advertising, like someone just said about the peanuts, if they keep on advertising, and it becomes so common that they start making a salads, and they at the sheva brach, a fancy sheva brachas, you're gonna have chestnuts and corn salad. So maybe it'll become oil al shulchan malachim. Probably right now it's not. I'm not sure. The other thing in Shulchan Aruch he says, "Dogam alochim gedolim ein nocholam ela yedei tchak lavikchem tzalam avikechavim asurim v'yesh matirim." There are these huge fish, not like smaller fishes with like herring or these fishes. When you salt them, they become good. Herring, so big, but I guess dogam gedolim is not mean like tuna. Groise. It's a healthness the malit to be able to eat it. So you have to also cook it afterwards. It's any nechel k'moishu chai, and we'll see soon in the shach elidet chak.
This is before sushi.
Yeah, today it's different. Today people have an attitude to eat sushi is different.
They made it to it, and this thing, I don't know, smoke white fish.
Nah, those things, I don't think so.
No?
Anyway, but because of it, the shach writes, in Sif Cotton Chof Aleph, he writes, because of Isa vehete the chavushim v'armunim hanikra b'loshen Yiddish kesten. I don't know what kesten is. I see today in Hebrew armunim is translated as chestnuts, but that's a big lav dafke that chavushim armunim that are that when Yaakov Avinu took a luz lach v'aramoin. I'm not sure that that's the same. You have to be careful today with words in Hebrew that they shouldn't. Here, second paragraph, second line. Hanikar b'lashon the kestin ena nacholim chayin ale yidei tchak. That these kestin, these armunim, you can't eat it raw. Only they tchak. It's like it's ichi to eat it raw. Yesh b'mishum bishul evkechavim. B'toyres chatos. We see in our countries the armunim they do eat it. They do eat raw. So first of all, it seems to be a funny machloikis and metzias. Like, is it? But the bottom line is we see that there's machloikis and Shulchan Aruch. It's something that you could eat raw, but it's not. Water raw cooked. They're good. Tea is good. Regular Poland Spring is good. But chestnuts, you could eat it raw, but they're not so good. If you're hungry, really hungry. But chestnuts are mostly eaten when they're roasted. So that's the shaila. Would you say? So bottom line is, so the bottom line is like this. I would say there's probably it's not nechel chai ela defchak. So it's a serious shaila. But I don't know. I think it's probably still not oila shulchan malachim. Chestnuts, so you'll be allowed to buy from a guy. However, there is the third shiloh which Menachem mentioned, which is if he cooked something else. You don't know. Some goyim are crazy. They have today ethnicities. And so someone mentioned here once that you go to a hotel and they have like a coffee thing. So what could be wrong? It's coffee. It's water. It's no bishlakum. He says that you have Chinese that are staying. I don't know if it's true. He said that Chinese are staying in a room in a hotel. They're not going to spend money on doing their laundry. They do their tachtonim in the coffee thing. And if they need to cook, if they need to cook a shtikul basar v'dogim, they also do it in that. It's good. It's hot. Why should you have to go out and buy?
Was a little tiny little?
No, today they started making very tiny. Today they make very tiny. It used to be Amol, they wasn't so tiny. It used to be Amol, a little bigger ones that they had. So I don't know if they're tiny or the same. But that's what I don't know if it's true or not true. Someone sat here and said that Chinese are that way. They're different ethnicities. They're funny people. So you could put in a little piece of bus of a dog and put some water and cook. Huh? Yes, yeah. It's not so simple.
I was in college once, and we had a whole discussion about ethnicities. The professor was Jewish, and we started laughing. He was like, "You guys swing a chicken around your head." That sounds funny, but we swing a chicken.
Okay. Okay. Anyway. Oh no. So Bishul is not a shaila. My shaila is just the guy you see in Manhattan, the regular street. So no. So I'll tell you like this. I'd say you have to always look to see. If you pass a guy that's standing with a keli like this, you could buy it. He's not roasting hot dogs on this. He's not roasting steak. You got to be meshuggah to if he bought a thing like this, it cost him $100, $200, maybe even more, $300 to roast the chestnuts. He's not going to start roasting 2-3 francs on it. But if it's those push carts that they have franks here and they have a little halal rice over here with the meat, and in the zaita he has also a silver foil and some chestnuts.
That's a question. Yeah.
Then probably there should be a shaila of
push carts look the same. The push cart is a push cart.
Right. So a push cart which is greasy, and you see a piece of silver foil, and then there's a couple of chestnuts there. Then there should probably be a problem of bishul akum because of not.
But if you only sell
if only chestnuts, if it's something like this, some type of thing. I've never seen in Manhattan someone walking around with a thing like this. But ilu yitzuyur, you ended up. They say in Italy it's very popular.
Spray it with oil or
no, nothing. They don't spray nothing. You don't need anything.
This is okay technically. This is if you're Europe summer whatever.
Yeah, I would say it's einay lo shulchan malachim.
So all is this heated?
No salt, no nothing. It's very healthy. It's very good. If your kids are bored, but the thing is, you can't do it when they're young because they have to handle it with a knife. Then the kid gets older and they have a yeshiva break, and they're bored. They tell you they're bored. Give them 4 pounds of chestnuts, and get them busy.
Well, then, so why is this not the Bishul option?
Because I don't think they're oil al shulchan malachim. It's taka ein nechel k'moy shulcha. You can't eat it.
Well, and pretzels or whatever this is. Well, I hope you look at
Pretzels.
white potato chips.
Wise potato chips I mentioned is a little more problematic than this because potatoes you can't eat potatoes raw. You have to cook them, and plus it's oil. Potatoes are oil al shulchan malachim. But you could be makel and say that potato chips are never oil al shulchan malachim. No one ever at a Sheva Brachas or a Chasna puts a bowl of potato chips. No, one of them is good.
You don't need to.
Yeah, it has to be tied to Legresa to be also. So if you have one of them is for your side, so you're good. Okay, so now let's talk about the bracha. The Shulchan Aruch says, Al Peiris Shemetzin's third paragraph, Al Peiris Shemetzin Ilon Yisrak Shahakol. So Ilon Yisrak, take a picture of this one too. It's an interesting article. Al Peiris Shemetzin Ilon Yisrak Shahakol. They call it here the bread trees. Like a lot of they say in Italy it was like it's a very high in starch. If you eat 10 of them, you eat a few slices of bread. It fills you up. It's very good. And if chestnuts, right? And as opposed to other nuts that you buy and they're already salted, the problem with the salty ones, besides salt is not the most healthy thing in the world, it also makes you eat more and more and more. That's the tev of salt. But these chestnuts, you can eat them very well without salt. So Mamela, you eat, and then you know when you're full. Like salt fools you and you don't realize that you're full.
But
Okay.
they probably put other preservatives.
Huh?
When they commercially sell it, they probably put other preservatives.
Could be, right. The Shulchan Aruch says, things that are wild trees, if they grow fruits, is the bracha shahakol. The Mishnah Brura writes in the Biur Halacha, these are wild trees, and they're not roy, the fruits are not roy to eat them, only if you're going to roast them or cook them. If you plant a tree and the fruits of this tree, you can't eat it raw, but you have to roast it. So it's a Bore Pri Eitz. But if it's a wild tree that grows in the forest, and the fruit is ein nechel k'may shuchai, you have to roast it. So now there's no chshivas to those fruits, and there's a bracha shahakol.
Say it again. The first case is the same tree.
The same tree, but I planted it in my backyard or in my field.
You still have to.
And those are still like a certain type of nut which can't be eaten raw. It has to be roasted.
It's a Bore Pri Eitz. You're saying
It's Bore Pri Eitz, right?
the same thing.
If it's growing in a wild tree, same thing if it's growing in a wild tree. So then the bracha would be shahakol. The bracha would be shahakol. So there are a lot of such things. So one of the things, by the way, Costco made a big thing out of cashew nuts. Cashew nuts are harvested all over the world. Now, there's a lot of places where they're harvested, where they grow in forests, they grow wild. And cashew nuts, they're not chayim, but I would say a little bit, but they're chak. And beaker, people like to eat them al yedei afiyah. To roast it. The same thing, the chestnuts. So here, let me show you a beautiful Mishnah. So the Mishnah Brura later says, he says, shtenel nusel, again, according to the brachas chart in Torah Vadas, is translated as chestnuts. But even if they're wrong, whatever, what's the difference? I mean, they're still right. Shegdelim al atze ya, tzarech yiyun, ki ein toiv kol kach l'maychel kimach rabishul. And this is really the Pri Megadim says it. He says, I don't know what to do with chestnuts because to eat chestnuts raw is not kishmak. You have to roast them. And they're growing on wild trees. Now, happens to be today what you're buying, most of these are really coming from farms. We'll talk about it in a second. Yeah. But it used to be that there were forests in certain countries, there were forests that had thousands and thousands and thousands of native trees chestnut. No one planted chestnuts. They just harvested them. So that was the shaila. So what? So okay. So the Mishnah Berurah says that says this. Okay. So he writes later that kan meide bepeid is geruin gegoin tapuchim ktanim vagasam ktanim agadelim vaatz ayar she'em ruim lachil shem chaim vakein enem chshuvim klal pri afil bishlam lachach mavarch lem shahakol. He brings from the Taz. The Alter Betaka does not bring it. The Taz says, what is it talking about when we're saying that there is wild fruits that grow on wild trees that the bracha shahakol? So the Taz says we're talking about if they were delicious fruits. Gewaldik, the bracha better pre-eats. Most berries today, berries are cultivated. In the olden days, most berries, and even some fruits from the tree. You know that other yom that people harvest from wild trees, and they're delicious. The bracha better pre-eats. So what are we talking about? Says the Taz, something which is you can't eat raw and you have to cook or roast. So that's where the bracha shahakol. So the Moshe Feinstein fragt the Verstehnish that's still in the Mishnah Berurah. He says, I don't understand. He's like he was sleeping between Oisa Sivkot and Aleph, Sivkot and Hey. Here he says that when the Shulchan Aruch says that wild trees give fruit, the bracha shahakol we're talking about that you can eat it raw. You have to roast it. That's what the bracha shahakol. And then he says, Shtenel Musel. Tzarichin, I don't know. Obviously, shahakol, you said something that you can eat when it's raw, you have to roast it. So he said, I don't understand. And Bechlal, even if it's a tzarichin, he says, I don't understand what the Mishnah Berurah is thinking. Don't you know the simple rule in brachas? When in doubt, you say shahakol. So why does he leave it as a tzarichin? Why doesn't he just paskin that since it's a tzarichin, shahakol? Lamaise says, I'm not sure what the shtenel nusel is, but any nut that comes from a tree, that comes from a forest, the people didn't plant it, if you have to roast it, the bracha is shahakol. Okay, so like they say sometimes, if you answer the shaila of Rabbi Akiva Eiger, you probably didn't understand the shaila. But I think here is a little different. I mean, he's asking a shaila on the Mishnah Berurah and the Pri Megadim. So I think the answer is simple. That he overlooked the simple nakuda. The Taz was talking about something which is ein nechel klal k'may shuchai. It's unedible, zero. It's not edible. Klal. And the only way to make it edible is through roasting it. And for that, he said that if it comes from a tree that you planted it, so your kavana was, and that's what the Shulchan Aruch says in Simareish Beisif Hey, shkedim hamorim, that no one can eat it only if you roast it, because that was the kavana of planting it. So the bracha is better pre-eats if you roast it. The Shulchan Aruch says, how about garinim peiris? Like we spoke about in the summer, like the seeds, so like sunflower seeds or pumpkin seeds. So these things are nechel there. But if they would not be nechel k'moshu chai, zero, it's impossible to eat them. So now if you roast them, the bracha is shahakol. So that's I understand. The shtenel nusel, which might be chestnut, No, if you planted it for the seeds, then because that's your planted, so the bracha is better pre-eats. But if you didn't plant it for that reason, and it's not an echel in ganzen, and now you roasted it, so it has a bracha shakal, has no kshivas. But I would say it's different. But that's because ein nechel klal kamoy shuchai. But if it's nechel al yedei tcha kamoy shuchai, it's very different. Very different. If you look in the beginning of Simareish Beis, the Shulchan Aruch, not all the poskim agree, the Alter Rebbe agrees, the Gemara disagrees. It says any fruit that ain't an echel klal, there's no bracha. But as soon as an apple is nechel, I feel like the tchak is the bracha better pre-eats. So it's a very big difference. A chestnut, it could be eaten a little bit. The shtenel nusel, if you take it raw, you could eat it a little bit. So that's very different than what the Taz is talking about. There's no contradiction in the Mishnah Berurah and the Pri Megadim. There's no contradiction at all. When they said that wild fruits is a shahakol, is when you harvest it, you can't eat it. Impossible. It's like eating a piece of wood. So now that you roast it, it becomes edible. The bracha shahakol. But shtenel nusel, the reason you had a tzarechiyun is because it is nechel kamoshu al deit chak. It is al deit chak. You could eat it. So maybe now that you roast it, it should have the bracha. And why wasn't the tzakratz that every suffix should be a shahakol? Again, I don't understand what Moshe is asking. The Magen Avram says in the Siman Reish Gimel that when do we run to shahakol is the usual rule. But a fruit that comes from a tree and the shaila is that it loses chashivas or not. If you made a better pre-eitz, you always yotza anyway. So what's the reason we're running to shahakol? We always run to shahakol because if you made a shahakol, you yotza anyway. But if you hold like the Magen Avraham, anything that comes off the true, even if it lost its chashivas, it should have been adam or shahakol. If you made a eitz anyway, yotza. Okay, no, that's why it was tzarechiyun. Because that was the prima god of tzarechiyun. I don't see any stira. I don't see why. So I would say fakert. If you have a little bit of a now today, I would say if you buy chestnuts, it's 100% eitz. And the same thing with if you go to Costco and you buy cashews. Sorry, there's 100 sveikas here. Number one, it might come from a farm that was planted for this reason. Number two, who says b'chlal? Who says b'chlal we passing like the Shulchan Aruch says that atzei ayar. There's no gemara. It's really a Rishon. The Rishon, the Sheboyla, like it says, a funny Gemara. The Gemara says that the lulav eseg, adasim, narobis are like 4 types of Jews. 2 Jews are the good Jews. The 2 Jews are not such good Jews. 2 Jews give paytis, my paydi mitzvahs, that the esreg is a fruit, and also the lulav give dates. They're delicious. The other 2 guys don't give off fruits. They're not. I have to make achtas from all the Yidden with the mitzvah, without the mitzvahs. You make achtas at all the Yidden. So now it says the Sheboyla like it. What do you mean? Hadassim doesn't give fruits? They have these tiny buttons that sit on the hadassim, those tiny ones, and they're edible. They're edible if you roast them.
Have you ever tried it?
I never tried them. You have a lot of patience for that. So he says from this is a raya that all fruits that grow wild is shahakol. And the Arizal disagrees. Now, the Aruch HaShulchan says that the Arizal doesn't disagree. That Arizal was talking about delicious fruits that are growing in the forest. That you made a mistake. Because Reb Chaim Vital says that my Rebbe argues on the Mechaber. So Mistam Reb Chaim Vital knows better if the Arizal was arguing or not arguing. I think Reb Chaim Vital was around. Reb Chaim Vital writes Befedish that I used to think that fruits that come from wild forest are connected to Klippa. Until I came to my Rebbe Arizal and he said the opposite. Lehepach. He used to like to eat, and he used to tell him that. Let me read it for you. Kerav zal Omar lehepach. V'zel l'shoyna. He quoted the Rizal. Izbre de dabre kosa poiskim the kimishal and izre b'de adam shavar shakol. Umoyri zal loyo yechoshesh. He disagreed with them. V'yem avara barocha ruya la'etzel adam afil al midbori. Upamim hoyem mitzava lohavle zarzarim shebnei adam oichel neisei kidei l'kayim mitzvah lechel mashamar HaKadosh Baruch Hu adam rishon shekil adama bavurei koitz v'darger tatzmiach loch. He wanted to eat koitz v'darder. So the Arizal disagreed with the Shulchan Aruch. And I mentioned Shabbos. People don't realize that Arizal, besides his gadlus and nista the Torah, which we accept everything that Arizal says, like Moshe Messinai, like unbelievable. We never find that a Gadol B'Yisrael should live only 500 years ago, and we accept every word he says, like Mamash Moshe Messinai. Besides that Arizal, and that Arizal was also Gadol and Nigla the Torah. And he disagreed with the Shulchan Aruch was his mechutin. We're not talking about even one generation earlier. The Beis Yosef was a couple of years older than him. They made a shidduch, a son and a daughter, with each other. So obviously there couldn't be such a gap in age. If a man is 100, the other guy is 20. They made a shidduch, a son and a daughter. So why can't the Arizal argue against the Shulchan Aruch? He disagreed with the Shulchan Aruch. He said any fruits that come from the tree are body priya eitz, regardless.
Family Feud.
No, that's this is the good disagreement. They sat at the table and they had a brachas contest and so the Eneklach said the Zaydi Beis Yosef says it's shahakol and the Zaydi Arizal says that it's eitz. That's it. What's the big deal? And the Alter Rebbe is an unusual thing. In the Seder B'Chanan, always paskins one way or the other. He's never hesitant. One halacha in Perek Vav halacha hey, he says wild fruits that grow in the forest, the din is the shahakol, but the Arizal says it's eitz. So I'm not sure. So what does he mean? I think what the Alter Rebbe means, you could pick what you want to do. I think it's pretty clear. And he quotes it. The Arizal says, and and that's it. He doesn't ask him one way or the other way. I think it's a simple pshat. Ovid command. You can do it this way, you can do that way. What is it totally? I think I mentioned in the summer when we learned Seder V'Sanan. It depends. If you're eating like that, eating in order to take out the netzutzas kedusha. So and you don't care how much it tastes. So what's the difference that it's so? Anyway, everyone agrees if it's from the forest and it's delicious, it's eitz. Shailas, it's not so delicious and it's growing wild. So the Shulchan Aruch says it's not so delicious, it's not choshev, it's not a eitz. The Arizal says, well, what's the difference? So this is the bracha is a eitz. The Arizal, if you're eating it like the Arizal, because you want to take out the netzutzas kedusha, so the bracha is by the priya eitz. But the Beis Yosef wrote it for the average Jew that if it's delicious, he thinks it's choshev. And if it's not so delicious, he doesn't think it's kosher. And the fact that it's high in zinc and in protein and then has a lot of calcium, if it doesn't taste good, it's not oil al shulchan malachim. So, so it's growing in the forest and it's not kosher to you, so the bracha shahakal. But that Arizal doesn't look, so if you eat like the regular yid, but if you learn a little chassidus and you're eating with the attitude of the Arizal, so then you make by the priya. So back to all these nuts like chestnuts that you buy today. Probably it's been harvested in the field, so it's better priya. Number two, you could easily pass on like that. We see that the Alter Rebbe didn't think that the halacha is a slam dunk one way or the other. You could easily pass on like that. So even if you'd say that we pass on like the Shulchan Aruch, so I think he's right. The Moshe made a mistake. I don't understand. The Mishnah Berurah is right. It's not so poshut because it's a little bit nechel. So now that you roasted it, it should have the bracha by the priya. So the bottom line is that the bracha on this one is by the priya. And also all the other nuts that are coming, even if they come from South America, other tropical countries where people stand there, you can't imagine how poor people. You go to these countries and there's little children, poshut, without shoes and socks, from the age of 3-4, and they stand there like with these things and they're collecting these, and then they come into Costco selling it to you nicely in a box, and but a lot of these stuff they're coming from Africa or South America where these people are getting pittance for it. And anyway, bottom line is they're coming from Atzei Ayad. But like I said, the bracha is by the priya, no question. Two more short questions.
What would be the reason why? I hear what you're saying, but why would it be less kosher once it's off the tree?
No, that's less kosher because the person didn't plant it. It's growing in Atzei Ayat and it's not delicious. It's not. If it's a delicious fruit,
means it has a different taste.
Not delicious means that people don't like to eat it.
Saying that it doesn't taste.
Doesn't taste good, right? Doesn't taste good.
Instead of on the tree.
Chestnut, if you take it off and you eat it raw, it doesn't taste good. So the only way is to roast it. So that's why he's saying that Sorechiyun, if it was zero.
That's what you mean less kosher.
Yeah, because less kosher, right. The Beis Yosef Paskin, that a fruit.
As opposed to how else could it be?
If it was planted by a human being, and he had in mind
not a tree,
a tree that I plant in a field, and the fruit of that tree I know is unedible, but I'm planning to roast it. That's by the priya. But if the nuts are growing in the forest on a tree that I didn't plant and they're 100% unedible, so then the Taz says even if you're going to roast it and it's delicious, the bracha shakal, there's no chivas to that fruit.
But the Arizal says it's a very great.
Huh?
The Arizal
says I don't care anything that comes on a tree, even if it's obviously if it's a piece of wood that's ain't nechel klal, he would agree it's shakal.
Yeah.
But if it's nechel deat chak, comes from a tree, it's by priya. It comes from the ground. I don't care.
It's only one sheet that it holds that if you didn't plant it, it's not
right. The Shulchan Aruch holds if you didn't
plant the tree,
you have to plant the tree. If you didn't plant it and it's totally unedible, again, if the Shulchan Aruch says only that if it's in the tree that's in the forest and the fruit is 100% unedible,
without
roasting it, but if it's slightly edible and then you roast it, that's the tzarechim. Maybe you agree. And like I said, that Arizal anyway argues in the Shulchan Aruch.
So we pass him that it's AIDS, so I can say.
Yeah, I would say 100%.
Arizal says we go by.
No, not necessarily. I think this is why I made this point. I went out of my way because there's a famous thing that the Rebbe's grandfather wrote in a sefer that they asked the Alter Rebbe why in the Shulchan Aruch he paskin like the poskim, and in the Siddur he paskin like the Mekubalim. So the Alter Rebbe said that the poskim said whenever there's machlokes the poskim and the Mekubalim, you have to paskin like the poskim. And the Kabbalim said whenever you have a machlokes the poskim and the Kabbalim, you have to paskin like the Mekubalim. So his theory is that in the in Shulchan Aruch the Alter Rebbe always paskin like the poskim, and in the Siddur he always paskin like the Mekubalim. I'm not sure that theory is 100%, always gehalten. I think in this case itself, you see that the Alter Rebbe didn't pass exactly like that. He's on. Could be this is not a Kabbalah zach. It's a shaila in how you learn the. It's a funny raya. This whole raya that he brings from the Gemara that the fruits growing in the forest, lose the chivas from the lulav and the esek. First of all, you can say that whole Gemara is drush. You can't bring from Agat Raya and the buttons on the Adas and are really
Pretty small. Right?
Yeah, you could sit that. Okay. Okay, so to summarize, the bracha and chestnuts are the chestnuts you could eat if you find it, the guy roasting it like this because it's probably not oil al shulchan halacha. And the bracha is 100% by the prio eights. What's special today connected to this shaila? Tonight is Rishon de Shvat, and Beishamai says that Rosh Hashanah Lilonis is tonight. Beisil says it's Chamisha, so Tu B'Shvat.
We're not having it for bringing to the show. No?
We're gonna have for bringing, sure. Sunday, 2 weeks, Sunday night, we're gonna have for bringing for Tu B'Shvat. How now? We're definitely gonna have it for bringing in Mitzvah Shem. We're gonna bring fruits, a basket of fruits. Definitely. The Rabbi used to always for bring kihilas that have a lot of pismonim that they say and. Still, Shulchan Aruch says to say tachin on that day. It's I think a common minhag by all Yidden, Svardim, and Ashkenazim to eat some fruits on Chamisha Asa B'Shvat. Today is Rosh Hashanah Leilonis according to Beishamai. So even though we don't pass like Beishamai, but okay, whatever. And Avodas Hashem Ela Divrei Kimchaim. So the Rebbe says like this. I don't understand.
I'm Shammai. I think I should have.
So today we'll go. Oh, very good. Today we'll go with you.
Man. I can do it both because my father and my mother, Allah Shalom, I'll go both. Besides, my dad's yahrzeit is the 16th of Shvat.
I'm not sure about that.
I'm sure of it. Yeah.
So the Rebbe asks us, in all the Musas for him, it says that what's the idea of Tu B'Shvat, Ki Odom Eitz Asoda. And the Gemara connects it to Talmud Chacham Hagun. So in Avodas Hashem, a Jew is connected to the tree. But they don't understand. Who is compared to Balchai? What's so celebrating Chamisha Asa B'Shvat? What's so the Geval Tu B'Shvat? So the Rebbe says like this, very beautiful thing that Oh, exactly. And the Rebbe mentions that Maimer, that we lose Maimer. And the Rebbe asks, that the Novi makes a big deal out of it. And the Alter Rebbe makes a big deal out of it. That why so much? So the Rebbe says, unbelievable thing, that is brought to this notes in Sifrei Musa, that the Dom Tzemechai Medabet in a person, there is Tzemeach is the Midas. The Midas in the person that's Samich. Just like a child, the Midas are one way. When they grow, you can't. Midas are connected with Tzemeach. Chai is Seichel. Chai is the idea that even animals have a little bit of Seichel. And Medaber within the person is beyond Seichel. This thing that a person has a conviction beyond Seichel, Amuna Lamayla Matam Vadas, that he has a Hakor and the Rebbeinu Alomim, that is a gift that a person has. That's P'chinas Medaber Sheba Adam. But Tzemeach is the Midah. So there is a Torah from the Alter Rebbe that says that we have the mitzvah to conquer the 7 nations. The 3 nations, the Eibishter gave us 10, Eretz Keni, Kenize, V'Kadmoini, these 3 lands, Olav Mashiach comes. The Alter Rebbe told his brother, and it's also a Maimer, that for us, the Avodas Hashem is to purify our midas. To rewire our brain is too difficult for us. The Eibishter does it for us and will teach us how to do it when Mashiach comes. That's going to be the avodah of conquering the 3 nations. We don't even know what avodas amoicha means. But the primary avodah today for a Yid is to be metak in the midos. I guess. Listen, there is a Ma'asein. The Alter Rebbe says that Ma'asein of Meshach Zman HaGolus is connected. So there's always, the Alter Rebbe says there's a thing, Bezeir Ampin, that we're doing today, that even though the main avoid of it will be when Mashiach comes, that we're doing Bizman Hazeh. So the emes is that we don't see Take Musas for him and Chassidus so much, the avoid, and we don't know what's the avoid Hamoich. We see that there's avoid a lot of midas to purify the midas, in a way not to have bad midas. Also, the Alter Rebbe said that the Baal Shem Tov said, the whole in Chassidus, Tzemach Tzedek said, the Alter Rebbe, that Lishana Teva Midoisa, the ganze Chassidus, Lishana Teva, my whole pilpul, what it meant, Lishana Teva Midoisa. So there is there is a story that the Rebbe said that once that the Rebbe Rashab hosted Reb Chaim Brisker for Yom Teshuvos, and he saw how he washed. He asked him, and he said that right now I don't remember which edition it was, but he said I trained myself that to do al pi Torah, and if that's whatever, and then he found them what the marker was. So it could be that there's talk about Tzaddik Elyon. I mentioned the other day that's in our mind, if there's certain Tzaddikim, if that Arizal said something, it's not Mashayach that he made a mistake in his cheshbon. Albert Einstein is Shayach, he made a mistake in his cheshbon. That Arizal not. Why? Because we believe that his moyach was trained to know Ratzon HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And for sure, Lo Yonu Tzadik Olavim, it's not Shayach that Arizal, the Eibusha wouldn't allow him to make it. But besides that, I think in our mind it's clear that the way that Arizal's brain worked, it was trained to think B'Ratzon HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and it's not Shayach that Arizal thought Heipach Kavonas HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Could be he had a machlokes Beis Yosef, Elo Devel Gimel Chaim, but it can't be that it was Heipach Kavon of the Eibishter. That's probably somewhere in the level of Avodas HaMoich. And we say for the average Yid, this Avodas HaMidas. And therefore we celebrate so much the Ilan, because Ilan represents the Inyan of Avodas HaMidas. And the Iker Inyan of a Talmid Chochem Hogum today in Avodas Hashem has to be to work on our Midas. Lashana Teva Midoisov, or like Chassidus, a lot of times Alter Rebbe's big thing is about where's my passion, where's my pleasure, is it in Gashmitz or is it in Ruchnius, and not so musari about what made bad Midas, but bottom line is it's all about working on the Midas. So that's the union of a main thing in Avodas Hashem. Another Nakuda the Rebbe says is that plants are always anchored in one place. A Yid has to realize that Ve'er al Avram al Yitzchak al Yaakov, that Yid always has to be anchored in the office. Okay, so quickly I just want to do another. So this we have tonight is already beginning the Chamishas of Shvat, the Shred of Shvat. So we did something about a tree and about the fruits of the tree and the Arizal. Okay.
Today also the Hilula Parav Kaduri.
Okay. Shkoyach. 2 quick questions. A child walked over, a little Maidala walked over Shabbos. It was very cute. And she wants to know, she has a set of beads. And she has a set of beads and she wants to make a necklace and a bracelet on Shabbos. So, and her father said it's also, but she wants to know. So obviously if her father said it's also. But the emes is like, what could be the shaila? Binyan is a shaila binyan because you're not clicking anything. It's not the only thing is the kshira, and the emes is a kesher shakayama. Even you can say, oh, it's a child's play. What's the difference? You're not planning to. I have Baruch Hashem Meidalach. I know how it works. They don't undo it. They have a set, the pieces. They make it. That's not going to be undone. It's not like Lego or other that once they make that necklace and they make the knot, that's a kesher shakayama. So
which ones of it has a clip?
No, that's not the way it works.
I understand, but
if it did, but that's not the way it is.
The ones who buy toys for you or whatever.
No. But the kids that no. The bad sets, the average set is there's these strings and the kids put it in and then they make a knot and they make a double knot and they make it very tight because it shouldn't open up. So it's kosher matter. You have to be mechanach kids, things that are isa de raisa. It's not even muktzah, it's isa de raisa. I think her tati was right that you're not allowed to do it on Shabbos. The other shayla was someone said that the kinderlach are sleeping in bed, and in the morning, why not? Why do they have to change the clothing? So mommy said they have to change the clothing. So I take a look. The Alter Rebbe Taka says not to touch your clothing before you wash nagel masa. But I looked, and I found. Read this in the last paragraph. This is a kind of a contemporary sefer, but still he. Roy lechol adam sheyachlef chaluke b'ma sheishin shaloi yilbes shoyse b'yoyim ki b'tech hashina maziv ein noah v'roy l'spal b'ksus kazev v'kam shemikra chash v'shom v'ontzoi. And this is from a sefer Minchas Yaakov Sfardi.
What about the winter?
It's a poisek. It's not a kadman.
What about the winter when you don't sweat?
So you say, okay, totally. If you sweat, so this guy writes, it's good to wear a pajama by night, and then b'chlal, a pajama is pretty good anyway. He said, because if you have to say ashayotzar, so if you wear pajama, there's an elastic, so it's good. Okay, check. Then he says, and he's right. He said, we know from Tzedekah Elgin that didn't change their clothing from Shabbos to Shabbos. And the Rizal, it's brought in Svarim HaKadoshim, that the Rizal HaKodesh, Keshaposhat Chaluke Lachlifa Bere Shabbos, Ho Yitzach V'noki Kumoise Loivshoi, V'hu Ho Yador Beretz HaKadosh Shechama Shemesh. That the Rizal lived in Tzvas, and it's pretty hot. He went into his mikveh, cooled off, and there was a pella that he used to change his clothing only once a week. Only once a week he would change his clothing.
It's clean. Dusty.
And it's exactly, it's dusty. It's very dusty. And still it was mamish, it was brand new. So
This is a reason, not
okay. So, but no, I'll tell you what. You can't say that there is true. I saw later, there is a saying. People do say, it's a Kollel the posik. This I see here in a Torah journal from Rabbi Matzliach Mazuz and the Meir Mazuz and Bnei Brak. There was a family. They were Rabbonim in Tunisia, and So he writes that he asked his Rosh Yeshiva about this thing. Ha'im yesh moker v'tam l'masha emne ma'olam shaloi lishim b'bgodim sh'odam lovesh v'mesach hayoyim kechutza mechnasayim v'im yoshem behem balayla lachlifam lifnei atfila v'ona li ein li moker l'zeh rak misvara sh'bgodim sh'yoshem emroim lamed behem ifnei hamelach. Okay, but like this, I would say davar poshut. If the Arizal slept with his clothing, Shabbos l'Shabbos, can be there was a tumah. LMI could be true that if you're a Schwitzer and your begotten get sweaty by night and dirty by night, and now you're going to come daven. Well, you're supposed to stand in front of the melech with nice, not clothing that are not roy to stand. You have to hear take shulchan malachim. How would you stand if you went to the White House? Would you go with these clothing or not? Okay. That Yisrael Taka woke up in the morning and his clothing, he didn't sleep for 8 hours. He didn't roll from this side to that side. So he slept like David HaMelech, the Gemara says, how David HaMelech slept. So he slept very little. And his Kedusha, B'chulu, so his begotten were clean and nice. So for me and you, if we slept with our clothing for a short time, then it's Roi Lamed Lifnei Melech. If you fell asleep on the couch and you slept for 2-3 hours, and then you got up, the begodim are not creased up. They're Roi Lamed Lifnei Melech. And if you slept in your bed for many hours or whatever, so it's up to. But I can't see that there should be a Ruach Tumah here. If there was a Ruach Tumah, that Israel would change his begodim. There's no question. Obviously, there's no Ruach Tumah. Elamai, there's a svara. You have to come in front of the Melech Malach Malachim Kadosh Baruch Hu. The daven should dress nice. Should dress nice. Okay, David shall help from Taka that from Rosh Chodesh Shvat, the Chamisha Asa B'Shvat, the Yud Shvat, that every one of us should Taka be Zocher and Avodas Hashem to be Matzliach in conquering our 7 nations, and David should bring us to Eretz Yisrael. We should finally conquer also the land of the 3 nations.
Amen.
Amen.
Rabbi, I was listening while I was davening. Even though it's deep in Pavana, you said there's an opinion that all 4 species of Lulav represents the old types of Jews, good Jews, bad Jews. Well, we actually learned from Hasidic that there really are no bad Jews because we all
Right.
The supporters of bad Jews just don't understand that.
Right.
And other people don't understand that they're good Jews, but it's deep inside. And
Did you study
and
today's Tanya?
what?
Did you study today's Tanya?
Yeah.
About the worthless of the.
So you're right. Maybe that's what that is. I didn't like it. That's why that.